Are you an ambitious leader ready to break through limiting beliefs, align with your purpose, and thrive in your career without sacrificing your well-being or postponing your true desires? I'm Diana Ordonez, certified high-performance coach and your host. Each week, we'll dive into actionable insights and research-based strategies to help you unlock clarity, build unshakable confidence, and take courageous action toward a life of impact and fulfillment. If you're ready to overcome fear, embrace growth, and step boldly into your next level, you're in the right place. Let's create a life filled with courage and purpose together. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me. And I'm going to have Carolina join me, and we're going over our courageous action. Hi, Carolina.
Hi, good morning. It's super bright on my back porch, sorry.
That's okay. What a day. It's, the storm is coming, and so Mia is home for remote learning.
Oh, no. How are y'all doing?
We're okay. It's a lot of just wind and rain. We're not that far west in North Carolina, so we're not getting like the brunt of the storm.
Okay.
So it's okay. But the school had remote learning this morning, and then they canceled it. So she was having like a full-blown, meltdown.
Oh, no.
It's okay. So
I've been watching it, and we'll pray for y'all's safety.
Thank you.
Florida.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a big one. The storm, I guess, took out some power in the area, and so that's why they had to cancel it. So it's just, big winds. I'm a Florida girl, so I'm not scared.
It's not your first rodeo?
It's not my first rodeo. This is how we do. I went through Andrew. It was all easy peasy from there.
Well, that's what I was thinking last night. Like, when it became a Category 4. So in 2017, we had Hurricane Harvey, who became a Category 4 right before it hit. And our church did a lot of, work during that season. And we partnered, with all the organizations. And it was so devastating to me to just see like houses flattened and people displaced and just all the loss. And so that's what automatically came to mind last night. And like I said, just praying for the people that got the brunt of the impact. Not that it's not affecting other people, but I could really, like you said, you could relate to it and you've experienced it.
Yep.
And speaking of courage.
Speaking of courage. So, that's a good segue because, anything that feels scary that way requires us to step into courage in a lot of ways, right? So we have similar experiences in that we've both experienced widowhood, right? And I think the thing about widowhood that tests our courage is that it dismantles our whole life, right? Like it touches everything, our careers, our, role as a parent, our obviously a romantic relationship, but the relationship with all our mutual friends, like it touches every part of our lives when you have, a marriage that your partner just suddenly is gone, right? Like your whole life changes. You're just like, it's crazy because even just the waking up and smelling the hazelnut coffee in the I remember like how much that it would impact me, right? Because it's like every second of my day was different suddenly.
Yeah.
And so courage to me plays a big role when we have so many unknowns, when everything feels just like so scary because you don't know, like I described it as just falling into this black hole and just like trying to grab onto anything I could on the way down, right?
Yeah.
So I want to talk today about, because I don't think we've ever talked about it specifically, but what do you think helped you really connect with courage? And if it was that moment, or if there was a different moment in your life.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so ironic because, you know, like I said, just transitioning from like the whole hurricane, you know, talking about widowhood and how everything has changed. It cracks me up. I am not a type A personality by any means, you know, but there are those people that are planners and they have everything figured out and everything marked and, you know, their day scheduled out and their goals planned out. And when I first encountered widowhood, I described it as somebody pulling the carpet out from underneath me and me landing flat on my face. Yeah. Because like you said, every aspect of your life is impacted and affected. And that's what I'm thinking of, like with these hurricanes. You can have, like, we're going to go on this vacation and we're going to do this and we're going to, you know, remodel the bedroom. And you have all these plans. And I think that there's scripture that says, we make the plans, but God makes the steps. And so we're thinking, like, I'm going to do this. And it's great to have a plan. I mean, I don't want to go into life without a plan. But what happens if all of a sudden that carpet is pulled out from underneath you? Or what happens if a hurricane hits and devastates your house? I mean, then you can't work, you can't go to school, you can't, and that was like everything, our church, like a whole, we had a campus that was affected, like a whole building was taken out, you know? Right. And so everything changes and you have to be resilient. So what I love that you asked that question, because ironically, there was a time in my life, and I think it was that same year of the hurricane. I was going through photos last night I was looking for something, a specific photo, okay? And you know how you go through all the old ones and you see like your kids were little, like all that stuff, you know, all the memories. And I found this one. I am not an artist by any means, but I had an encounter with God one day. And it's funny because you described it. So I think, again, we're similar in this. I had an encounter with God because I was being a brat and I was, you know, I had read my Bible and prayed. Like I said, that's one of my habits, right? That's one of those things like brushing my teeth that I don't even think about. And I went to go get ready, get my makeup on for the day. And I just heard him say in my spirit, like, we're not done. And so I went back into the living room and I grabbed my journal and I sat down and I slapped it down. I'm like, I don't know what you want from me. You know, I felt like I had a coaching session with God because he was like, you know, like, what is going on? And I told him, I can't do this anymore. And he was asking me, you know, you can't do what? And when I was trying to describe to him how I was feeling, I described what you just said. I was sinking in this black hole and I could not grasp on. And he was like, so tell me what that feels like. It's like and I'm like sinking. And when he asked me that, I think it kind of like shook me. And there was like these ridges in the hole that I was falling through and I like held on just, you know, this conversation. And I was like, it feels like American Ninja Warrior. I know, this is crazy. And he goes, and what does that feel like? And all of a sudden, because I felt like I was falling, there was something under my feet. And I looked down and this rock, I'm going to cry, this foundation shot up through the hole. And as I shot up, I looked up and he was reaching down for me. And I drew that. And it's a horrible picture. I'll send it to you. But I saw it last night and I cried. Because I said, I don't want to forget that at my deepest, darkest moment, where I was the most lost and fearful, and I thought I couldn't do it anymore, like I had to realize I am standing on the rock. Like you are my firm foundation. It doesn't matter if a hurricane hits. It doesn't matter if I lose everything financially. It doesn't matter if I, lose my spouse or my child. Like nothing on this earth is predicated on nothing determines my stability apart from him. Now, sometimes it takes us a moment to recognize that, you know, when we feel like we're deep diving into that hole. It was recognizing like, you are not falling, you are not drowning. This pit is not never ending. You just have to get to the point where you're like, oh yeah, I landed on the rock. and you've got me, whatever that, and you're going to pull me out of this, recognizing that he was going to pull me out of it. So, like I said, ironically, you asked that, and I just saw that video.
Yeah. I had, very similar. So for some reason, after Juan passed, I started to journal my prayers. And I never did that before that. I don't know, like, what prompted that for me. It was almost like letters to God. And it was like, I remember specifically saying, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't do it. And it was just like, I don't know from where that strength would come in of, you can. And it would be like just strength out of nowhere. And you're right. It's that being centered in something much greater than you. When you rely on your own strength, there is only so far that your own strength will get you. And that's why I feel like most people don't come to God till they get to the edge of themselves, right? When they realize, I can't do this anymore. And so I can only describe that after the point of where I couldn't anymore, like, he had to take over, right? Yes. And so, like, one of the things that I say is, for me, courage is in the place where you find and connect with love. And love is that powerful emotion where you no longer do things, because they're comfortable, but you like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't do them because it's rational or because it makes sense. You do them because the love that you feel is so strong. And that love could be, for that love that you have for your family, for a loved one, for the compassion that you feel for someone else. It could be that love that you feel for yourself. Like, you know what? I am ready to honor my dreams. I'm ready to honor my body. I'm ready to honor, and love myself. But I think the greatest of them all is that love for God, right? Like, when you have that moment of being centered on him and saying, I'm going to do this because I know I need to honor you, because I know this is from, everything I have is from you.
Yes.
And therefore I want to honor you with that. So I want to be obedient to that. And it's like, one of the things I think about becoming a widow as a mom is that you view your kids, right, as that gift that he gave you. And it's like, okay, now I have to take care of this with like every strength I have, even when I can't anymore, even when like you know what I mean? It's like, you just keep trying again and again and again and again. Okay. It's like, I think the love we feel for our kids is immeasurable in so many ways, but I didn't have the opportunity, unfortunately, and I did try every possible crazy idea I could think of to try to get the hospital to allow me to be there with Juan in his last days. But I do know that there are many widows that did go on a journey with their spouse, when they were battling something. And I think there's a lot that happens there too, or even when they themselves have to battle something. It's that, like, one more day, like one more moment, one more second. Sometimes it was just like laying in bed and it's like, I just need to make it to the bathroom to brush my teeth. And then after I did that, I can think of something else, like after I brush my teeth, maybe I can move to like putting the dishes in the dishwasher. Like, sometimes courage is found like in the little things because you're already so depleted. And you know what I mean? Like, I think when people think of courage, they think about these grand things, but when you are so tired, right? And so depleted and so scared, right?
Yes.
Courage is like moving through that no matter what that looks like for everybody, right?
Right, right. And I may have mentioned this before, but I remember because, yes, I was at the hospital through that, through the last days. And I remember my little sister coming out to the hospital and she was saying, "Oh my goodness, you are so strong." And I felt like I was crumbling inside,
Right.
so her perspective, like, really surprised me. And I think people need to realize that too. What it looks like externally is not always what's going on internally. And I think that really encourage people, that it's like, there is nothing wrong with you if you feel like you're okay. Okay, there is something wrong with you.
Always goes down the wrong tube. I don't know. I can't remember. It's that I'm a great faller thing. I'm also a great choker.
I want people to realize, if they're looking through somebody going through a really difficult situation and they think, man, I am so weak or inadequate in dealing with these things, and you're so strong, or, you're just like this pillar. And it's like, no, I'm not, and I'm so thankful that you see that. But there was this moment where I called my mom over and like said those little things. And I was like, just hold me while I cry, and it's just like, I can't do anything else but cry, but I just need you right here beside me. And I remember after that, like, it was a while before I even went to church, and I had my mom go with me and I held her hand because I didn't want to see people, when we go through hard times, it's like, how do you navigate yourself back out into the world? How do you overcome these things? And, to transition this into setting life goals and recognizing that, again, we can make the plans. We can make all the plans and things are not going according to plan. How do we navigate that? And I think overcoming that fear is not negating it or trying to pretend that it doesn't exist. I think it was Joyce Meyer when I was young would always say, like, do it afraid. And I was like, what does that look like? I don't even know. How do you do it afraid? And as I've matured, learned, I know what it looks like. Like, I talked about this, talking to my phone or an iPad. It's like, it feels so dumb, but it's like doing it afraid. Speaking of, hi, Christy. Somebody brave going through a courageous circumstance. So I think it looks like setting the goal and taking that next step into what it looks like. And sometimes it's picking up the pieces of your life. Sometimes it's cleaning up the debris of your flattened house. Sometimes it's learning to navigate your new life without that person. And what does that mean to your dreams and goals? Because if you've truly prayed and feel like God created me for this purpose, what does it look like to take that next step? And I love that you and I get to walk this journey with people. And I was thinking about that last night. I was thinking about what I love about coaching is actually getting to help somebody take their dream and verbalize it, write it down, create steps. So when you get up in the morning, like you said, just getting up and going into the kitchen, just getting up and saying, what is one thing I can do today to move forward? And doing that thing afraid, and everybody's going like, how can you do this? How can you write that? How can you do this project? How can you move to a new state, Yes, and Christy said, and to see the transformation, right? And she's another one, like everybody told her, like she's so brave, going through, her circumstance of dealing with cancer for the past year and a half. And it's like, there are days when we don't feel brave, but you just go through day by day and accomplish that next step to inspire other people.
Yeah. You know what? I think when we have that encounter with either near death or actually losing someone close to you, you realize that whether I want to or not, life is going to put me in situations that are uncomfortable, scary, unpredictable,
Yes.
and just like, and so one of the things I work with my clients on is, okay, what's like the goal that scares you? That's the one. Right? Like that's the one, because that's the one that's going to lead to transformation. The reason, widowhood or, battling cancer, like the reason those are so transformative is because they require you to change, like to become someone else in order to walk through that journey. We could never like go back to our old lives now. Like we are different people now.
Yes, yes.
Right? And so it's recognizing that the growth is found in the goals the dreams that scare us, not in the comfortable ones, right? Not in the, the 5% growth ones, like they're the 10x goals. They're not rational. And that's where like the dreamers and the change makers are born, right? Because they're not afraid to do the thing that scares them. And when you said like, what does that feel like to have that be a foreign concept? I think it's because if you've been that person that walked through life feeling that discomfort and that fear in your body, yes, being an indicator, like an alarm bell for you to, this is not good, go away, like turn the other way. And then life is like, this is not good, but you can't go anywhere. Right? Like you can't go anywhere. Then it's like you have to like go walk that walk no matter what you feel. Right. And then you gain that strength of knowing, oh, right, even though I was scared, even though it was uncomfortable, even though I didn't know what the next, day would look like, I moved through it and I was okay. Yes. And I think courage also comes from that place of like deciding for yourself, no matter what, I'm going to figure it out. Yes. I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how, but I'm going to figure it out. And like, yes, going through a divorce is scary. A lot of times that I met people that were going through divorce as a widow, like I recognize it's not the same. Mm-hmm. And yet I see I can be so compassionate, empathetic for that situation because it's still so much grief revolved around it. Your whole life does change the same way, with widowhood. Yes, there, in some ways it can even be more tough because they are still there and they're, and you're choosing or they're choosing, not to reconcile or whatever the case may be, or to make the changes in their lives that they would need to make in order to be in partnership again, whatever it is. And so divorce is very similar process of I have to rebuild everything I thought about my life. And what's beautiful about it when you talk about goals is like, yes, because you get to start from scratch, you get to imagine anything you want because everything's dismantled anyway. It's like when you're buying a home and you have to demolish it, you get to dream up your whole new home. Yes. Yes, the hurricane took it down and that, those are tragic events. And there's beauty in rebuilding it from where you are now, from this new place of hope. Like what I think courage does too is it forces us to either lean into hope, yes, or lean into fear. And fear is very constricting. It shrinks us. And hope, is very expansive, where you want to like dream up this whole life. I think after I went, not only through the loss of Juan, but before that, I saw his two best friends, his same age, kids the same age, lose their lives suddenly on their way to work one day. And I was like, it gave me such a like yearning for living more, for, more life. Like
that life you're living.
Yes. yeah, to decide what kind of, like, because guess what? It doesn't, like, it could go away tomorrow. Like so many things had so much less importance once I realized it could go away tomorrow. Okay, maybe I'll be embarrassed. Okay, who cares? Like, like, I could die tomorrow. Maybe it's like, it just feels so soft.
So I want to talk about, like, I want to address, because they're talking about, Christy said she heard in church that your pain is your purpose, and talking about losing spouses or going through a divorce. I want to address identity, because so many times, like, our identity is entwined in who we were before the loss. And I think that's so important as we move forward and encourage that, like you said, it's like redoing a house. I had a friend that their house, was destroyed inside because of the hurricane. And, it's like, looking on the bright side, I get to redo the kitchen, the house like I like. Even though it doesn't mean there wasn't a cost, there wasn't pain, there wasn't loss. What does it look like to recreate this the way you always thought it could be? And I think that we need to look at this because, I know you and I, we talked about that, like, we've become more of who we were created to be because we had to grasp, at who our true identity was, because our identity was not only in that relationship. And sometimes we do that, that time I said, like, when I ended up, I felt like I was, face down on the floor. I was like, I'm no longer a wife. I'm no longer a mother because my son was off at college. And, if you go through a divorce or whatever, and all of a sudden you feel like your identity has been stripped away. This is that time. I don't know if they had this when you were little. There was this little thing where you would write on, and then you could lift up the sheet and it would erase it all. Or even like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
So, okay, everything is shaken. Mm-hmm. And so you get to go back to the drawing board and think of, okay, now what do I want my life to look like? What is my identity? Because my identity is not tied to a person on this earth. My identity is in being a daughter of the King of Kings. What does that look like to live that life now? What do I want to reflect to the world? And especially, there was somebody that we know that went through a tragic loss yesterday, and we got the news, and literally at work, it was a point where you couldn't stand. You just, when you hear this loss, and I was in mourning for the family. I'm thinking, how were they? They had all these plans of what their life was going to look like, and in a moment, it was taken away from them. And so where is your identity? Yeah, so Christy said that she lost her identity, after being diagnosed with cancer, because you feel like you're just, you have hair and you have, like all your body parts, and all of a sudden things are like stripped away. But our identity can't be predicated on external relationships or external characteristics, because that is not going to keep us going. And when I think about who I want to be as a person, I love how you said everything is tied to love. It's all tied to love. And if love is what we're reflecting to the world, if they recognize it's like, okay, so you don't have hair, or okay, so you don't have a spouse, but you are glowing. There is something different in you. How are you still surviving and thriving after all of this? I don't understand. And then we can tell them, because my identity is not in this. Pouring into your daughter, being strong for your daughter, being strong for those around us, and letting them know there is so much more to this life than this moment. And how do I want to present that to the world in the gifts that God has given me? And those can be done from a hotel room if your house is flattened. Those can be done from a phone or an iPad. We don't have to be out in a public space to do that. But I think it's so important for us to bring hope to this world that, I feel like there are so many people. That's what I was crying about last night. I feel like there are so many people that can relate to us when they feel like they're just plunging down that deep, dark hole, and they don't need to go, they don't know how to get out. And so what advice would you give somebody that's in the situation that we were in at that time, where they just feel like, I'm sinking and I feel hopeless and I don't know how I'm going to get out of this deep dark hole?
Yeah. Whew. So one of the things you said was like, you don't have to be, around people. Well, I literally couldn't. I couldn't be, because it was COVID and we were locked down. And one of the things I did, because I just didn't know what else to do, honestly, like I didn't want to call people because I didn't know what to say to them, really. Like I was just as scared as everybody else, and I didn't have any information. And the information I was getting was not good. Like it was not good information. It was never good news. Like I would hang on to every little bit. Like I would just keep asking questions till I got a bit of good news, any news. Yes. And they were like, yeah, but that's not going to, I'm like, I don't care. That's all. Like, stop right there. And it was, I would get on Facebook Live every night at 9 p.m. after I put Mia to sleep. I would go downstairs to my basement and I would get on Facebook Live, and I just said, anybody that wants to sit with me in prayer and worship,
wow,
to get, to pray that he comes home, I'm going to do this every night until he does. And so people would get on with me, and some people were like, I had never, ever done anything like that. And it just changed my relationship with God. And, what's interesting about that is that I started praying that God bring him home, because so many more people would know him, right? Like, I'm like, this is good. People are going to see him come home and they're going to have renewed belief and all this stuff. And I just really believed he was going to do the thing that I, was praying for. Like I was worshiping in a way that I had never, because that's like, the thing is, I knew I couldn't do anything, and I knew that I couldn't rely on the doctors. Like they were telling me that they didn't know what was happening. Like they'd never seen anything like this. We're doing everything we can. We know, we treat everything the way we normally treat, and it's not working. So you can't put your trust in, the medicine. I can't put my trust in myself. I can't even go anywhere. Like, who do you put your trust in, right? And it's like, okay, I know that in all of my previous dark moments, and that's why testimony is so important, when I felt like I didn't want to do this anymore, right? Like, because it wasn't just the loss. It was like there were many moments in my life, unfortunately, where I felt like I can't do this anymore. Like, why am I doing this, right? Why am I doing this? And it was like I can't explain it as anything other than God, because it's a sudden, like a sudden peace and a sudden strength that says, yes, you can. Mm. Just take that step out, right? And so it's about like recognizing that that it doesn't feel like it, that it doesn't feel like it's happening for a reason, but it is, and it's meant to shape you into who you're meant to become, right? And so it's like, losing your identity to a big event like that, feeling like you're in that big dark hole. I always say, when you lose your confidence, when you lose your hope, when you lose your joy, it's always a focus issue. It's always a focus issue. And so what do you want to focus on? And it's like, I chose to focus on God's promises. Like I chose that, and yes, it's my identity in God, but there's also like my hope is in God, not in the doctors, not in the evidence. I remember I would show up to that live every day, and it's like the prognosis is not good, and it doesn't matter because you know, God can make anything happen. And you know what? Well, sometimes people say like, why give false hope through dark situations? And it's like, I would have much rather gone through that hoping and experiencing the loss than just feeling like I've lost the battle before we actually went through it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think the dark hole is like about looking for the light.
Yes,
and so that hope to me came in to people. Like I always say, God sends his people. And so I say God sends his people because when things were dark, people would send me food, people would call me, people would pray with me, people, the nurse gave me that one FaceTime call from her personal phone. Like it is about looking for the light. It's about gratitude for those moments.
Yes.
And so, yes, I believe in our identity in God. And I also believe that in those moments, just like you can rebuild your house, you can rebuild your identity. Like you can say, who do I want to be now? Right. And it's like, you know what? That's why we get to be different people, because our whole identity was completely demolished. And then there's still certain things that I struggle with where if you looked at me before the loss, and sometimes like my old patterns come back, right? Because that's how we work. But it was like my brother, my sister really noticed the difference because they've known me my whole life. But there was something in me where I was like, if I could go at any moment, this is not how I want to continue to live my life. Right. I'm not going to be the realistic one. I'm not going to be, because realistic really means I'm going to decide to be pessimistic about everything. Right. And then I'm not going to be this person that is always looking for what could go wrong. Right. Like I decided that I'm not going to be this person that is going to be looking, because one of the things that Juan did really well is like, he just brought joy to every room that he walked in. And the thing is, like, it's about intention. Like he decided, I'm going to be the kind of person that no matter what situation I'm in, I'm going to make people laugh.
Oh,
right. Like, and so there's tension in a room, something terrible just happened. He's like, I'm going to make people laugh. And he's like, sometimes I just find it hard not to tell a joke. Like it's harder not to tell the joke. And I think if you can say, okay, well, my whole identity, my whole life has been shattered, and to feel empowered to say, who do I want to be now? What kind of life do I want now? To have the vision for, I can build this life, I can build this new identity, is very empowering. It's very like, and when you look for the evidence, your brain will show you the thing that you're looking for. Aww.
Yes. Yeah.
Perla knew.
So I want to go back to what you said about focus, because I want to talk about how these situations affect our view of God. You made me think of the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. When I grasped that when I was younger, because they chose to serve God, and they were getting thrown into a fiery furnace that was actually like turned up. We can't even comprehend that. Turned up 10 times hotter or whatever. And so their statement was that I know God is able to deliver me, but even if he doesn't. And I remember like contemplating that, and I thought, can I say that? Can I say that honestly? Because like you said, we go to God and we're asking for healing. We go to God and we're asking, why did this happen to me? And we don't understand. But once our perception of God is negatively influenced, and which I understand, like people that are hurting so bad, like how that can happen. But when you have to contemplate, like, even if he doesn't, because we don't see the big picture. And I think like we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We wouldn't have even connected if we didn't have this shared experience of going through widowhood. You know what? And we don't see all the lives that are changed or impacted. And so I think it goes back to the saying, like, are we serving God, and is our relationship with God predicated on what he can deliver to us? And there's a saying, it's like to seek God's face instead of his hand. And when you said that a while ago, when you said, where is our focus? And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've been hearing that for the past few weeks. When God takes us, there's a scripture that it says, and he takes you by your right hand, that when he does that, you have to face him, because if he's holding right to left, we're standing next to him. But when he takes your right hand, we're facing him. So we're seeking his face. And I was like, okay, do we really want to just seek his face, or do we want what he has to give us? And I don't think it's our fault. I think our society teaches us, like, get more of this, have the relationship, have the things, so we don't know any better. We're like little children, I want. And then when we recognize that the only thing that gets us through is that love and light that he pours out on us in the midst of these hard times, because I went through like a really hard season growing up, and then I went through like a really easy season according to the world standards, and then the carpet gets pulled out from underneath you. But what grew me into this woman? What created in me this urgency to help other women, accomplish the same thing? It wasn't that easy time. It was all those, I know that my God is able to deliver me, but even if he doesn't, not only will I serve him, I'm going to come alongside him and help him pull the other people out that are drowning,
Yeah. It's interesting. So the night before Juan died, I was on my bathroom floor, and I would go into my bathroom because I wanted to have three doors between Mia and me when I was desperately sobbing while she slept, because I didn't want to wake her. Right. So I went into my bathroom, and I was on the bathroom floor on my knees, just crying out to God. Like, please, like, they're telling me this is it, and I need it not to be. Right. And I remember I had that moment where, when Jesus cries out, it's like, please take this cup from me. Right. And it was like that moment. And then I had this moment where like I knew I had to relinquish control of the outcome. And I said, you know what, God, I know that if he dies, you will get us through. Like, I know you will take care of us financially. I know you will take care of Mia. Like, I know I will rebuild my family. Like, I know it's gonna be okay.
Yes.
But right? I said all that, and then I was like, but please don't do this. Like, I'm just begging you. Like, I know it's gonna be okay, and I'm just begging you with my whole heart to not do this. And the next morning, I ended up. It's crazy because they didn't tell me. They didn't tell me that he had passed, and I got to the hospital, and I went through all these procedures to finally get inside, like mask, gloves, all the things, sanitize, whatever. And then I'm looking through the glass, and he's not there anymore. Like, I was like, I'm like, I couldn't process it. Like, I was like, why isn't he intubated anymore? And it was like, well, because we don't keep the tube in once they've passed or something. I don't even remember. Like, watching that scene is like, in my memory, is like watching a movie like on mute. Like, I don't remember what was being said, and it's almost like an out of body experience. Like, I see myself in it rather than like in my body. Like, I can see myself looking through the glass, talking to the people, and I remember like, no, right? Like, just rejecting that's what happened. And I remember just sitting there praying for a miracle. Like he had already, like, it just was like, no, you lift people from the dead. Like, I need you to do this now.
Yes.
Right. And and it's that, just, I don't remember where I was going with this, but it was about realizing that it's not about why is this happening to me. It was about what is it teaching me?
Oh, yes.
How is this supposed to shape me into who I'm meant to become?
Yeah.
Like, and to stop asking why, like what am I supposed to learn from this? Mm-hmm. And it was, I see in so many ways how I needed to go through that. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes I talk to God and I'm like, did that really have to be the way? I couldn't have learned this some other way. But it's also like not only being honest with, like, I think it's important to be honest with yourself and be honest with God, yeah. Because it gives it less power. Yes. It gives it less power when you realize, when you notice, when you give it words, like, I'm scared right now.
Yes.
I have so much doubt right now. I'm so angry right now. I feel so, I remember I didn't feel angry towards God at all. And I didn't question whether or not he existed. And the thing is, it's what I remember feeling is abandoned, right? And I remember just feeling like, I can't believe, like, he just wasn't, where was he? Why was, right? Where was he? And there was an exercise that my pastor talked to me about, and it took me like 4 years to ever, like, I was worshiping one day in a church, and I suddenly I felt moved to do it. And it's like, imagine where was he in all those moments of darkness? Yes. And where was he? He was standing right next to me, yeah. Right? Like, and he was sending the people that I needed in the exact right moments. And it's like, if where you look, that's where you will find. And when you look for meaning, you will find it. Like, I guess it's hard to accept that the moments that shape us are the hard ones, right? Yeah. It's like you said, it's like the only way you're able to walk through life with people that are going through something is because you have, your own pain, your own story to be able to offer that empathy, compassion. They say your story is one day going to turn into the survival guide for someone, the next person.
That's good. I've never heard that. That's good. That's good. I wanted to let people know, we are life coaches. We are not counselors, but I truly believe if anybody is going through a situation, like struggling through a situation right now, we've been talking about, it's like you said that, we kind of have like some notes in our survival guides of what that looks like. And as you were talking, I was thinking about my daughter-in-law and I are doing 75 Hard for Jesus right now. So going to the gym 5 times a week, which I hadn't been doing. And I don't know if you know the process of building muscle. Mm-hmm. It actually has to tear in order to build. And when you said that, it's about it's the process of becoming who we were created to be that stronger person. Nobody wants to go through that. Like if you tell me oh, you want muscles or you want firm whatever, which melts when you get injuries, just let me tell you, everything melts. And then I this week noticed a difference, and I was like, really, this is what it takes to be, to have that strength and to have that muscle. And it's that pain. You cannot build that strength without enduring that pain. Yeah, that's so hard. Nobody wants to go through pain. Nobody wants to pay the price or count the cost. But that's what we're asked to do. But the most important part of what you said is like, we don't have to do it alone. You know, people can come and, you know, say like, hey, I know you said you've been through this journey, or I know that you said you struggled through this season. Help me make sense of it, or help me walk through it, or come alongside me. Help me plan my next week, you know, how I can move forward in this. That's why we signed up to do what we signed up to do, because we don't ever want to see another woman, you know, flounder in life and feel like there is no way to pick themselves back up after that experience. We want them to utilize and mine every bit of that to become the strongest, most effective person they can be, you know, to be a reflection of God, not just to them, but to the world through these experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. You know, one of the things that I talk about now more than I ever did when it actually happened was I had a miscarriage in January of 2019, which was the year before Juan passed. And that miscarriage, I remember, felt so devastating. And I remember thinking, like, why is it so hard now to conceive again? Like, because it wasn't just that we had a miscarriage, but then I couldn't conceive. And so, which to me made no sense, because I got pregnant right away with Mia, and I got pregnant right away when I had the miscarriage. And I just couldn't make sense of it. And I was devastated. And I was like, this was not, you know, why is this not working? Like, unfortunately, I've been very blessed that anytime I've prayed for anything, he's given me what I've prayed for. And so when I prayed for Juan to come back to life or not to die, I said, I will give it all back. Right? I will give it all back. Just give me this one. And so I couldn't understand why I kept praying for this and it wasn't coming. And after he died, I was just like, oh my God, thank God that I don't have a baby right now.
Yes.
Like and so part of it is like, you don't understand today how it's going to like change your life in the future. Like, it's like you said, we wouldn't even be on this live right now. We wouldn't be talking to the people that we're talking to right now.
Yes.
I might have not even become a life coach. I'm not sure. I was going to be a doula and childbirth educator before Juan died. And then he died, and I was like, I can't leave my daughter in the middle of the night to go to a birth. I have to really rethink this. And it was also like the push, like all of a sudden I couldn't keep wondering what I'm going to do. Because when I left my corporate job, I was like on this journey of, what do I really want to do? Like I was looking for purpose, and I knew that what I was doing was not in alignment with like what I was really called to do. Early when I was in grad school, I was trying to be a counselor, and then I was like, this is way too clinical. This is not how I saw myself, you know, empowering people. This doesn't feel empowering because it was like in the wound. And so there's a special place in heaven for those people that can walk with people of therapy and being in the wound with people and that. But I just knew a year into that program, it wasn't for me.
Right.
But I knew that I had that calling to help people achieve their dreams, like build the lives that they want. And my life kind of just kept moving, and I didn't go back to, hey, how do I make that happen? I was just like, this is the easy route, like not the easy route, but this is happening kind of like a current. It's just taking me, right? And so I'm going to go with it. I like product management. I'm learning stuff. This seems like the thing I'm supposed to do. And the thing is, I could have thought, oh, this took me so off course. I did this product management thing when I was going for counseling and industrial organizational psychology, like all this wasted time. And now I'm realizing, oh, but if I hadn't gone through all of that, I wouldn't have learned what I learned about marketing. I wouldn't have like been forced to do speaking, engagements where I had to speak in front of hundreds of people. I didn't, I had to do trainings. I had to do meetings. I had to sell, big ticket items. And so there was a time where I was like, oh, I let this like kind of drag me with it. And it's true on some level, it is true, because I there were times that I could have decided to take the reins of my life in certain ways, and I did it. And I learned that it was part of my journey and it was there for a reason, and I was meant to learn what I learned there. And so it's like courage is sometimes about trusting. Like, yes. Just like, I don't know what this is supposed to be teaching me, but I'm going to keep moving forward, knowing that God has a plan.
Yes.
And no matter how scary or how awful the news was, or how much it doesn't make sense in the moment, it will one day build up the story that is meant to, shape me into who I'm supposed to be, to like fulfill the purposes for my life. Right?
Yeah. Let's end on that, because let's give a call to action that if anybody is going through one of these, like some kind of difficult season, let's pray about what that looks like and what you're learning in this season, because I've experienced that too. Like, even through the seasons when you're coasting, or you think you're coasting, or going along with the flow, it's building up experience for the next season. But sometimes it's like, we just went over a waterfall, it wasn't, I was going along for the ride, and now all of a sudden I went over a waterfall. Really pray and ask God, like, what is he teaching you during the season? What is he forming in you? What muscles are being ripped to form new strength in you? And if you need a little help on that, DM us, so maybe we can help navigate you through that.
I was just going to say, I offer free strategy calls too. It's not like, you can get on a call with us. We can help you build a plan, completely free of cost. I saw Perla's note about you're a rock, and I wanted to just echo what you said. It's like, we only become strong through the pain that we're willing to feel.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so
thank you. It's been so fun. What a great month.
Awesome. Yes. I can't wait to do it again. Thanks so much, Carolina.
Okay, I gotta run.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Courage and Purpose. I hope today's insights inspired you to take bold action and align your life and career with what truly matters to you. If you're ready to dive deeper, I invite you to download my free Action Indicator Assessment, a powerful tool to help you uncover what's holding you back and take the next step towards clarity and confidence. Just visit www.lifeonpurpose.coach/action indicator to get started today. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who could use a little extra courage on their journey. Until next time, stay true to your purpose, lead with courage, and keep thriving. I'll see you in the next episode.